Good afternoon and welcome to Mediascope, the programme for and about the public relations, event management and journalism industries. I'm Ellen Gunning and you're very welcome to the programme. On this week's show, I'm chatting with Archbishop Jude Okolo, the Papal Nuncio to Ireland. Thank you so much for coming into studio.
Thank you.
Now, what do I call you? How do you like to be addressed?
Well, I'm Jude.
Well, you see, I have
Thank
to ask you that question.
No problem.
Because if I called you Jude without actually clarifying that, I'd have a tsunami of people saying you are not treating that man with
Thank
respect.
you. No, I'm Jude, yes. My parents called me Jude, and in the family, everyone calls me Jude.
Well, Jude, it's great to have you in
Thank
studio.
you.
You were born in Kano in
Yes.
Nigeria, but
Yes.
you're actually from Onitsha.
Yes.
Did you always want to be a priest?
Yes.
From the time you were very young?
From when I was 11, I was convinced I wanted to be a priest. And even till today, I have not changed my mind about what I wanted. And it is a vocation that really thrills me.
And it's something that you did a straight line from school into college, into the priesthood, did you?
Yes, I would say so, in the sense that I was an altar boy. And I was impressed by the priests I saw and also by my fellow altar boys. There were 52 of us, altar boys. And I wanted to be a priest. And my intention for being a priest was to help humanity, to give my life entirely. When I say entirely, that's what it meant and what it still means. Entirely for humanity. And for myself also, to be saved also, for my own good and for the good of everyone at the age of 11. And I entered the minor seminary at the age of 12. But my dad didn't want it.
That's very early, yeah.
Oh, yes, it was early, but I knew what I wanted. Because my dad was a teacher, my mom was a teacher, and I started school very early. And I think I knew what I wanted because I had seen my environment was clear to me. I became, at a young age, being aware of one's environment and of the reality. I think that was what, propelled me.
And what was it in your environment that convinced you? What was it that you saw that you thought, I would like to help change this or influence it in some way?
Not to change, but to encourage education. Education. I saw people who wanted to learn. And I touched books at a very early age. And I wanted to continue touching books. And I did. Because most of my time in the minor seminary, in the major seminary, I was a librarian. And it was good. And
excuse my ignorance, what is a minor seminary?
Minor seminary,
it's obviously for young people.
Yeah, exactly.
What does it involve?
For the secondary school education. My entire secondary school education, because in the minor seminary, the secondary school education was provided in 6 years. And that was it. So from the age of 11 or 12 to 18 or 17.
So at 12 years of age, you professed that you were interested in becoming a priest, and somebody actually takes you under their wing. Yes,
there's a seminary. There were 128 of us in our class. And so that was quite a big number, and a challenging number. And that was it.
How many of those became priests in the end, as an item?
52.
Okay. Okay.
Our rector challenged us. He said, if 10 of you become priests, that would be a miracle.
Okay.
We told him, all right, let's see. And we took up the challenge. And those who didn't become priests, for one reason or the other, they are successful today. Very successful in various ways.
So the education and the whole seminary,
it was something. We had a wonderful rector,
good.
Very paternal, very fraternal, very good. And also even the spiritual directors we had, both Irish, also some of them were Irish, and others were Nigerian. They were good.
I was in Nigeria a few years ago, and absolutely everybody seemed to have some contact with an Irish priest or an Irish brother in education.
Oh, yes. I had many of them, beginning with Father Greg McGovern, may God rest his soul. Yes, he's buried in Welton Park in Cork. And so this challenge towards education, to make a difference in one's own life and also in the lives of those around us. That was what propelled us, one of the reasons, of course. And then we went ahead. And my dad didn't accept my going for the priesthood. I have to say that. Initially, he didn't.
Were you an only child?
No, there were 3 of us boys, but I was the first boy. And normally, in our tradition, the first boy shouldn't go to become a priest.
So he should become the provider for the family.
Oh, yes, exactly. Okay. And also he should, carry ahead the name of the family. And so my dad told me that clearly. So I told him, well, I have 2 other brothers, very bright, coming after me. He said, yeah, they're bright, but then the tradition is to be upheld. And I had to fight my way and prove to him that I had the vocation. And later on, one day he called me. That was after 80 years of fighting. And he told me, "No, I think you can go, but be careful. And if at any time you want to come back home, know that there is a homestead to welcome you."
Oh, that was wonderful.
Oh, that was good. That was good. No, he supported me to be, to be educated.
He didn't want you to feel that if at any stage you felt you'd taken the wrong decision, that you couldn't actually come back and say,
exactly,
I got it wrong.
Yes, exactly. Or that I would feel bad, or that I would feel a failure. No. On the contrary, he said, "Know that we are waiting for you with open hands. You'll be welcome back home." I thanked him.
And your two brothers, did they get married and carry on the family name?
Of course, they have their families, big families also.
So he forgave you in the end?
Oh, yes. My brother is a doctor in pharmacy, and one of them, and so on. So they have also succeeded in life. So, but he forgave me.
But it took 8 years. Well, I suppose from his point of view, he was reared in a tradition that said this is how things happen.
Oh, yes, of course.
And it was a big change
and
for him.
He was correct. I knew he was correct.
You were changing the tradition.
Of course. Well,
but you also knew that you had to do what you had to do.
Of course, yes. I felt the deep, strong call within me. And he noticed it because he saw me every day. He saw my movements, and he, as a good headmaster, no headmaster would like any child to control him.
And are your mum and dad still alive?
No, they have passed away. May they rest in peace.
So when you go home now, who do you meet?
Well, my brothers and sisters, yes.
And did your mum and dad live to see you become a priest, an archbishop? What did they?
Yeah, both of them lived to see me become a priest, but not an archbishop. Yes, in between.
But they knew you achieved.
Yeah, they knew.
Step one.
Knew. No, they were satisfied.
You've actually gone from being a priest, you became a priest, and you are now an archbishop, and you're the Papal Nuncio. And the reason I want to talk to you is I'm fascinated by what a Papal Nuncio does, right? So I was
also myself before I became one.
So I want to know how it works.
Yes.
So it's a promotion, I presume. I'm putting this in very much in layman's terms.
It's an appointment. It's an appointment to a duty, yes.
And are you appointed by the Pope, by the Holy Father?
Yes, he makes the appointment.
And does he write to you? Does he phone you? Does he say, "I need to have a cup of coffee to suss you out"? How does it work?
Not so detailed. You see, as a Pope, he has many aides. Have many people who work with him. There is a Secretary of State, there is a Substitute of State, and so on. The Secretary for Relations with States. All those, and also there is the delegate for representatives or for papal legates. These are archbishops and cardinals who work with him. They are the ones who scout.
Okay, so they actually make the recommendations for
yes, they do. Exactly.
Who he should review.
Yes. They would normally. However, the Holy Father also sometimes makes his own choice and tells them, "This person I want. Just make sure that he comes there, or just study the person and make sure that he's all right, that he can do this work, and then refer back to me."
Okay.
Yeah, because normally there is an inquiry, very detailed inquiry, consultative process. And so the people do the process, and then they get back to him, and then they say yes or no.
Now, the consultative process, is that, like the role of a Papal Nuncio is equivalent to an ambassador?
Yes.
So you need a really good interest in current affairs and societal changes and politics and the world.
The contemporary reality, yes.
Is that what your interview process is about, if you like? Is that early stage
just
to see?
A little part of it. Little part of it. There is, first of all, there is the major preliminary part of it, which I may not go into. Also because I'm not part of it, I'm the object, not the subject of it. So I wouldn't need to go into that. And also because, also as a nuncio, we are also the subject of such an inquiry for the appointment of bishops. It's almost the same process.
Okay.
Yes, because
so it's a very thorough, very detailed process.
It's a very thorough and detailed process, and also which needs objectivity as much as possible.
And what was the most unusual thing that you were asked as part of that process that you thought, I wasn't expecting that?
I wouldn't think there is any undue, question or inquiry that wasn't part of it. And but the one that was the one I saw most interesting, I tell you, it was just a coincidence. I was coming back home for my vacation, and that afternoon, the parish priest, didn't know I was coming for mass. I was just driving in, and they said, let me go in to see the parish priest. And he was the one celebrating mass. And there he was announcing to the people that there is this question coming up, that if there is anyone who knows anything that will be contrary to this appointment, let the person inform me. In the whole 3,000 parishioners announcing that. And
very much like you would do at a wedding to the congregation.
Exactly. And he shouldn't have done it normally that way, but no problem. And there was I coming in. And then somebody said, they're talking about you. I said, what are they saying? They're talking about the possible appointment. Then I said, I shouldn't even know about it, I told him. No,
and where were you based at this stage?
At this stage, that was when I was in the Czech Republic.
Okay.
As a councillor.
So he decided that he would just preempt the process just a little bit.
Yes, normally. So it was a little bit of an embarrassment, for me, But I was amused also.
But it was obviously very democratic. Nobody stepped forward and said, this man should not be appointed.
I was amused, but I said that was also good, However, I told the person, please turn. Let's move, because, this whole crowd now, they will see me. And then I moved on, Then a week later, and then I went to the city, and then I kept away. But it was very, very amusing.
How long does the whole process take? You were a bit like a politician. The people can come up and say to you afterwards, I voted for you. I never actually thought of it that way before. I gave you the seal of approval.
Yes, but normally it shouldn't be that way. I think this was just abnormal, because the parish priest didn't know. I think the bishop asked him, and he didn't know what to say, so he thought he should ask the people. And that was it.
And it was probably asked the people quietly, not
exactly,
from the pulpit.
Exactly.
So when you're actually appointed then, I presume the job involves two different things. There's an examination of you as a religious person,
yes,
as the face of the church, and an examination of you as somebody who would have the awareness to fulfill the position.
And also, of course, the state would have to do its own inquiry. Because, a nuncio, just like an ambassador, is accredited to the state.
So the state must agree that you are a person that they will accept as ambassador.
That's what we call the agreement. Normally, the Holy See would ask the state that would receive the person as a nuncio. So this is the person we want to send to you as a nuncio. Now it's up to you to do the inquiry. And
as an item of interest, do they ever refuse to accept a nuncio?
I presume they can. And let's take it globally. Any ambassador, a state can refuse an ambassador, can refuse someone as a designate. Because first of all, the person is designated, before receiving the agreement.
Actually appointed.
Exactly. So someone can be sent a name can be sent to our state. Now we want to appoint this person and our ambassador to your state. And then the state, of course, the president also with the Minister of Foreign Affairs and also their equipe, their team, they would do the inquiry. But they could come up with a fact. For example, if the person had been there as a secretary or as a councillor and may have said something against the state, for example, something very serious, and they may have done something against that state when he was a councillor or a secretary. Now he's being sent back as an ambassador. Then the state says, excuse me, this was you, and this was what you did.
Okay, so if you had... Actually, if you had taken a stance against the state, possibly because it was the right thing to do for the people in the area, the state could actually refuse to have you back.
No, let's put it this way. If one had taken a stance, against a state because the person went beyond his or her own competence.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. There are limits of competence.
You had overstretched your competence.
Exactly. If the person overstretched the person's competence, then the person may have finished and gone, but the state has it and then it's waiting. One day the person is being appointed as an ambassador to that state, and they say no. When this person the person wouldn't be told, but the sending state even may not be told why the person is refused the agreement. It's just the person.
But they will just know that
just say, "We're sorry, we cannot accept this person."
So when you've gone through all of this process, both the Vatican and the state that you're to be appointed to have agreed that you are the right person for the job. What's the job brief? So what are you actually asked to do?
As we just from the point, there are two. As I said, there are two accreditations. I'm accredited as a nuncio as from the point of view of the church. I'm accredited to the church, to the local church, and also to the state.
Okay.
So the appointment to the state is just like every other ambassador, except that we don't fully enter into political matters, and but our work is mainly as far as the political matter may relate to or affect our work, things of mutual competence and mutual interest. I'll put it that way. And then accreditation to the church, the local church, in the sense that I'm the nuncio representing the Holy Father to this church. Since the Holy Father has supreme power over the local church, also he needs someone who has to represent him, and also to represent him in that church and that local church. And so that is why, therefore, from the point of view of the state, it's just like every other ambassador. Those ones we know. Okay,
the state doesn't see any difference that you're appointed by the Vatican or by the Dominican Republic or by France or whatever. It's the same appointment.
It's the same appointment, yes, exactly. From the point of view of the church, that's where it becomes a little bit more intricate and also detailed. The major role I have is that it is my duty to communicate to the local church whatever the Pope wants to communicate to them. That is to the bishops.
So you are his face, his voice.
Exactly.
You are his person in Ireland.
In Ireland, yes, that is it.
And how does he communicate that to you?
There are so many ways, either directly or indirectly. And and in all those ways, it is his personal right to use any of those means of communication. And it is my duty also to communicate to the bishops, whatever he says and the way he says it and so on. And then also from the bishops themselves also, whatever they want to communicate to the Holy Father, they have a right. They can go straight to him or they can go through the nunciature. Normally, if they go straight to him, the Holy Father may get back to the nuncio and say, this person came with this. Normally, yeah, because the nuncio
And why weren't you in touch with it?
Exactly, so the nuncio is supposed to be that neutral facilitator between the local church and the Holy Father.
You're a conductor.
Exactly, yes. And it works very, very nicely. It works very nicely. And also, not only the bishops, but also the priests. Normally, the priests should go through their bishops and then also. But then if a priest wants to make an appeal to the Holy Father, for example, it is his right. Or a reverend sister or a lay person wants to make an appeal to the Holy Father, it is the person's right. The Holy Father is for everybody. And he should have that access, and people should have access to him. I said normal, justifiable access.
And when you're giving feedback then to the Holy Father, you're actually telling him, I presume that these are the issues that bishops or whatever have identified, but you're also putting them in the context of the society. So you're saying this is the society. I'm thinking of the Pope's visit when Pope Francis came 2018.
Yes.
It was very different to Pope John Paul II in 1979.
Yes.
You would have advised him in advance, so you would have prepared him for the fact that the reception wouldn't be as, Pope John Paul II was like a rock star arriving in Ireland. It was an incredible, everybody wanted to be there. You would have advised him that politically, economically, from a religious perspective, Ireland had changed.
That was my duty. However, we did it in a very wonderful way, in a very nice way, in the sense that everybody was involved. Everybody who had a competence in it was involved, not just myself. Also because I had just arrived. So all the bishops were involved. We were all involved together, and it worked out nicely.
So between you all, you prepared a briefing for him?
Well, normally there should be a briefing, there should be a briefing at various levels, and he had, we gave to him that briefing, yes.
And was he surprised by anything when he came then, or did he feel that he had been well briefed? I'm thinking, for example, of him meeting with the victims of clerical sex abuse. That it was obviously something he'd been briefed about in advance. He met with them for a number of hours privately. I would have felt that it reflected very well on him, that he took the time and he went to the trouble. And I presume that was part of the briefing that you would have given him to say, this is a very live issue.
Yes, if you don't mind, let's leave that matter. Because it's a very delicate issue, Also because there are people who it's a delicate, it affects so many people, And so I wouldn't like to provoke sentiments, you know what I mean? To provoke sentiments, Because since it's a delicate issue and that he himself handled directly, I would leave that to him. Okay. Yes, I hope you don't mind.
No,
yes.
I don't mind.
Very good, yes.
So he comes over for a visit. What was What was your role as the Papal Nuncio in the visit? So you've briefed him in advance and said, this is what you can expect, and I presume this is where you will go, and these are the different, this is where you will celebrate Mass. So he has the entire map.
Now, let me explain this visit this way. He was coming for the World Meeting of Families. Mm-hmm. He was not coming for a pastoral visit to Ireland. There are two different things.
Okay, which
the
Pope
Holy
John
Father
Paul
II came for a pastoral visit to Ireland and spent at least 7 days, 6 days and a half. Mm-hmm. Pope Francis came for a meeting. He was invited to a meeting which was just being organized independent of him. He was asked to participate, and that if he participated, it would make it really great. Mm-hmm. He had a right to participate or not. That was why people were waiting for him. Holy Father, decide. Tell us, are you coming or not? You remember, yes, people were waiting for about a month. Holy Father, tell us, are you coming or not? He said, just
it was
wait.
All speculation, but no answer.
Exactly, yes. But the meeting was being planned independent of that visit. You see what I mean? So that made
it was going ahead whether he arrived or not.
That made a great difference between the visit of John Paul II and Pope Francis. People didn't want to listen to that. They were being told, this is a different... No, they wanted... they were being told, this is not a visit to Ireland as such. It's just because the meeting was taking place in Ireland, so he's coming to Ireland. And then I put it this way. Because he was coming to Ireland for this visit, he wouldn't just close his eyes and say, I don't care about Ireland, I'm just coming for the visit. Excuse me, Holy Father,
yes.
Holy Father, excuse me, So it's Holy Father, I'm coming to this meeting, but then since I'm coming to Ireland, it will be an opportunity to address certain issues, just like a good father. Mm-hmm. Which was it? And then it will be an opportunity to meet the people of Ireland in far beyond the World Meeting of Families. You see what I mean?
So he would have said to you, if I'm coming anyway, can I include other things?
Oh, yes.
So that I meet more people and reflect more issues.
Exactly. That was it. And that was why he was, people were grateful to him that he enlarged the horizon of his visit, which is good, And therefore everything was planned around that. And there were many limitations. Just one night. It's not like, the Holy Father going from county to county as he did, John Paul II, In this case, he just was here, and then even going to knock, it had to be planned and then, I would say, squeezed in. And there was a nice squeezing in, It was almost like a miracle. And in spite of the weather that morning, the landing in Knock was a miracle. Many people didn't know about it.
I think any plane landing in Knock is a miracle.
Exactly. Thank you. We all know history. That's good. So that is it. That's why when people make comparisons between the visit of John Paul II and that of Pope Francis, I tell them, take it easy. Comparisons limp. Because if you are comparing two things, and you want to see them very objectively, you have to put them on the same level, and then it will be objective. But in this case, things were completely different. And then also the local authorities came with their own conditions.
Okay, so they knew how they wanted this World Family Meeting to be held.
They wanted at least that of Phoenix Park. They wanted they limited the number of people. They limited the access. The Holy Father, when he goes to places, he wants to touch people. He wants that closeness. But there was a little
That's an interesting one. Is security a huge issue? Do people try? I know that anybody who's in the public eye, there is always a fear that something might happen to them, and it might happen to them while they are here. He is, as you say, he's very open. He likes to meet people. Is it an issue for you to say to the security forces, he really is, he's happy with you not standing directly beside him or whatever?
They were told that the Holy Father wants more space, that's more to be closer to the people. They were told. But one thing is to tell them, another thing is also for them.
I suppose
they were also defending their own, because they didn't want any issue.
They're worried that something might happen.
Of course.
So, from your point of view, then the Holy Father comes over. I'm really thinking about the fact that the two visits were so very different, and from a PR point of view, I know that when Pope John Paul II came over, it seemed that, I don't know, maybe a year in advance or so, every PR person in the country was asked, can you contribute, can you help, can you get involved in some way, which didn't happen with this visit. Why do you think the media didn't cover the fact that it was a different thing? Why didn't they separate out? Because I'm sure you explained it.
Yes, I'm also a journalist, so I wouldn't judge my...
Excellent. Judge your colleagues. That works for me.
No one is judging, I have to be respectful.
But they were briefed on the differences.
They were. They knew. Excuse me, they are very intelligent. Excuse me.
So, okay. And I would definitely feel they didn't communicate that. Would that be fair enough to say?
No, it's just that, there was a feeling, there was just that feeling that way. There has to be comparison. There has to be this and that, And, when you just pick up those papers, you just read and smile.
As an item of interest, you're a former journalist. So how do you feel the media covers? You have been quoted previously as saying you don't think the media gives a fair shake. I'm sure that isn't exactly how you phrased it,
no.
But that you don't feel that they cover the Catholic Church or Catholic Church issues in a fair way, that they focus on the negative rather than the positive.
If you don't mind, let's leave it. I wouldn't, just as I said, I wouldn't like to be a judge, because to be a judge on an issue so delicate and all, you just have to bring all the facts, and then to judge intentions of someone in the office from what the person has written, it's not always so easy. But it doesn't mean that you cannot make an evaluation, from what you see. So that is it, Yeah.
So if you do you issue press releases to media and hold media briefings?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't,
this is interesting. So the reason you are low profile is because you really are low profile.
I'm low profile.
You don't actually engage with media?
No.
So the engagement with the media would be through the bishops?
Yes, exactly. Okay. The bishops' conference does the engagement with the media.
So you would, if the Holy Father wanted something communicated, you would communicate it with the bishops, and it would be up to them in turn then to disseminate it through the media if they felt.
I'll put it this way, for example. Normally, if the Holy Father has something to communicate, it would be, for example, if there is a publication, and that would mean then sending it to the bishops' conference. And then, for example, the World Day of Peace. We just send it to the bishops' conference and then tell them just disseminate this to the media. And that is it. So something like that.
And what about the likes of, I accept you're low profile, but the likes of, say, Archbishop Dermot Martin? I'm a big fan of his. I'm a big fan. He's a Dubliner, I'm a Dubliner. And what I like about him is he has that whole Dublin attitude of just call it as you see it and then wait to see what happens. I think he's probably one of the biggest advantages the church has in Ireland at the moment. It's a personal opinion, but I think he touches people. He says things in a way that people understand.
Yes, one thing. One wouldn't compare the nuncio with the Archbishop of a place, of the city, of the capital city. The nuncio is different. He represents someone. He's a messenger of the Pope. So he says what the Pope tells him or what the bishops tell him. The Archbishop of Dublin is himself, he has the right over the church in Dublin. You see the difference?
I do.
It's a major difference.
I do.
So he personifies the church in Dublin.
That's why Dubliners love him.
And that is why every bishop personifies the people in his diocese. He is the bishop.
And yours is a bigger, broader overview entirely.
Different. Completely different. I wouldn't say over. I would just say different. Stand aside. And then and that is why also there's a lot of how would I put it? The nuncio doesn't take sides, doesn't take a position. No.
At all. You are literally the conduit.
It just stands aside but he's an interested observer.
And I presume you offer your observations back to the Vatican then, in a way, this is sort of on the state side, in the way that an ambassador would.
I have to, that's my duty. It's one of my duties. You had asked me about my duties, I can just summarize it. This is the first duty, to communicate to the Holy Father the situation, just like every other ambassador. And then also the appointment of bishops, to work it out, and then the consultative process. And then the division of dioceses or the amalgamation of dioceses is also to coordinate this or to see how this is, what I mean now.
I do.
In the present circumstances. And then also with the, religious orders, coordinate activities with them, the context of ecumenism and so on. So these are most of, what I do every day.
They're very big, broad, strategic issues rather than bow and arrow, individual items on an agenda.
Exactly.
So your job is really to reflect what the Holy Father wants done in the church in Ireland.
Yes.
In each of the different sections or sectors that it appears, and to report back to him how successful or unsuccessful you have been in communicating his wishes.
Yes.
So what do you see then as this is the impossible question.
Yes,
so what do you see as, how do you see the church in Ireland in 5 or 10 years' time? What would the differences be? There are no easy questions here.
This
Come
is
on.
a $1 million question.
And we don't have the $1 million.
Only God can answer that question.
What would you like to see?
But unless you want us to answer it from the human point of view. But you see, myself from a diplomatic point of view, as a nuncio, I wouldn't be able to give an opinion. You know why? I could be making a mistake. And I wouldn't it's like someone who's, riding a cart, with the horse, holding and then, and then you see something there and you determine the movement of the horse. You have no right to determine the future of the church in here. I have no right. I will just follow it as it unfolds. You see. And so if I make any pronouncement now that would influence it, it wouldn't be correct for me.
And would you not seek to mould it? In the way that a sort of chief executive would say...
It is the duty of the bishops, not myself.
Okay, so it would be moulded through them?
Through them, yes.
So what's your favourite part of the job? What do you like doing most?
What I like doing most... What's the bit
that you get up in the morning?
What keeps me busy most is the search for suitable candidates for the episcopacy. And that is it. The moment you get suitable candidates and find them, not just myself alone, of course, I have to do it with the priests, the laypersons, the bishops, together. The moment we find suitable ones, then they will do their work, and I will stand aside.
Okay, so it's identifying the right people who can carry that message.
Exactly.
And what's the worst part of your job?
The worst part of my job, if there is any worst part. The best part of my job is prayer.
Okay, yeah. It's that life that you actually signed up to.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, it's that dedication
to make a difference
to God.
in humanity. Yeah, that's it. To give of my best to humanity, and then allow God also to act
through you.
Exactly. I have to be realistic. It is God's work, especially for the good people of Ireland. And that's what makes my work easier. That you're working with people who are realistic, who have an experience, who have also gone through so much in life. Then at the end, you just trust them to shape their own future themselves.
So it's about having a good team around you, basically.
Yeah.
You dodge the bullet on what you don't like doing. Come on, what's the worst part? Is it, do you miss food from home?
I'm not a food person, so I don't miss food.
Did you used to go racing and you don't do that anymore?
I'm not. I wasn't good in racing. It's difficult to say what really, the worst part of it. It's really difficult. I'm sincere about it. It's really difficult to say what's the worst part of it.
That's a very good complaint. You obviously really enjoy what you do.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I'm sincere about it. I find it difficult to find the worst part of it.
I find myself thinking that young people nowadays, when they take a job or when they enter employment, all of the research will tell you that they don't just want a job. They want a job that in some way contributes to society or helps the environment or improves the status of women or immigrants. They want to feel that they're actually contributing something. And you obviously are driven by exactly the same thing. What would you like to be doing in 5 or 10 years' time?
Doing what I'm still doing now, or doing what I'm doing now.
That combination of administration,
being present and being used by those who want to do something good. Yes, those who want to do something good, allowing myself to be at their disposal.
And in terms of the church itself, the church has become... It's changed a lot. It used to be, when I was a child, it used to be quite rule-bound. I don't mean that in a negative way, but you knew everybody went to Mass on Sunday and you knew people made their communion, and there was a whole series of rules. And now it's become a bit more a la carte, probably worldwide, that people don't seem to follow the rules as strictly, but they're very spiritual. Is that a real challenge for the church in the future?
It is a major challenge, because, you can't imagine a family without regulations, without checks and balances and limits. That would be catastrophic. The The church still has rules. It's just that many people don't care about it.
That's my point.
I think the church has to maintain rules. Every family, the parents tell you, no, this is not done. And then you want to, no. And then you say, and no. And then you hear it, By the time you hear the no 10 times, then you know it's not done. And then you know you don't do it.
You get the message.
Exactly. And then when you grow up, you say, thanks to God, I had someone to tell me no. Even 10 times the same day.
So really the church should stick to the rules that it has and wait for society to come back around.
Or even find new ways of saying that no. I think that's it. That's why I love my mother. Even my father also, They wouldn't use the word no 10 times. They will say it in different ways. My father had his thesaurus, the vocabulary, and he would know how to say it. And even sometimes you just look at his face and you just read the no on the face.
Yeah, you didn't need any words. You knew what the answer was.
I like that, and I think that's what the church should do. The church should find nice ways of saying no, and the loving way of saying this is not done. This is against the will of God. And then the person will say, but how do you know the will of God? You say, read the Bible. So, but it's too heavy and so on. It's okay. Let me open a very nice page for you. And by the time the person finishes reading that nice page, the person continues reading. And that's another way of saying no.
So the challenge really is to look at this great need in the world for some kind of spirituality, some kind of connection. And encourage people to see the church as a family with rules that they sign up to. So if your mother or your father told you can't do it, you can't do it.
You can't do it.
There is no other argument around it. It's going to be a fascinating few
and
years.
help people to a fresh, always every day, a fresh experience of God. Because our God is not a God of knows and knows and knows. It's a God who loves us and lovingly tells us that this is very good, and shows us the beautiful face of the world and the beautiful faces of our neighbors. This is our God. And we need that experience. And our church should be able to communicate this wonderful experience of goodness. This is what we need. Because it's not a question of regulations and regulations. They are sometimes heavy. You don't like them. But the church shouldn't be seen as, this carrying chains of regulations. No. The church should be seen as showing us the beautiful face of God.
And there lies the challenge.
That is it.
Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. Now, that's all I have for you. I really enjoyed that conversation. I learned more about what the Papal Nuncio does today than I have in the last 50 odd years. My thanks to Archbishop Jude Okolo, the Papal Nuncio to Ireland, for actually, I think, clarifying in my head that the biggest challenge the church faces, and the biggest challenge that you personally face, is to actually show the face of God to people every day of the week. That's a heck of a challenge. I'm out of time. If you have information you'd like to share with listeners, or you have a good story to tell, then please email me on mediascope@dublincityfm.ie. And don't forget, you can hear podcasts of this and previous Mediascope programmes on www.irishacademy.ie. I'm Ellen Gunning. Sound this week was by Fergal Daly. My thanks to Archbishop Jude Okolo, the Papal Nuncio, and thanks to you for being with me today. I look forward to the pleasure of your company at the same time next week. So until then, goodbye.